Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Magic Through Wrestling podcast. And that's right, I can say welcome, ladies and gentlemen, because Bill Demott is not here. I have made him disappear, Maury.
Yeah, Jimmy, you did the ultimate magic trick. You made Bill disappear. I will say I don't know how happy he's going to be that you guys locked him in the dungeon, and you sounded almost excited to introduce without him being here. I'm just stirring the pot.
I got the hashtag. You ready?
Oh,
hashtag Demott disappeared. That's right. All right, so we are here at the Magic Through Wrestling podcast. We have a very special guest that's going to join us. I'm going to introduce him in just a minute. But real quick, what a week it's been in the world of professional wrestling. We had Survivor Series, fresh off the heels of that. What a card. NXT coming out on top over SmackDown and Raw.
It was amazing. The NXT with 4 wins, SmackDown with 2, Raw with 1. Did you see that happening at all?
I absolutely. Listen, I didn't like the finish of the women's match, triple threat, but
I didn't like the match in general.
They're building, right? I can see Shayna Baszler versus Becky Lynch down the line. Maybe Ronda Rousey coming back. Who knows? WrestleMania 36 in Tampa, right around the corner. It's exciting. We are on the road to WrestleMania.
We're actually so far on the road that we got tickets to the event.
We do have tickets to the event.
Thank you for getting those, by the way. For
yeah, I'm waiting on the check. Thanks, Maury. We're excited. It's going to be a great time. More importantly, The Fiend and Daniel Bryan, what a match that was. And it was a classic. I thought that The Fiend was such a great storyteller, brought out the best in Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, I like it because The Fiend is not so overly big that he couldn't do he couldn't do anything with him.
Right.
But yeah, he was still this supernatural power that just made sense of how they worked together. And Daniel Bryan still proving that he's, one of the best.
Absolutely. And it's funny you say that supernatural power because I'm sitting next to somebody who a lot of people say has a supernatural power. We are here and joined with us tonight on the Magic Through Wrestling podcast, a good friend of mine, a great performer, a great entertainer. You could see him in Wonderworks at the Out of Control Magic Comedy Dinner Show. Mr. Tony Brent is with us in the house tonight.
What an introduction. Oh, my God. That's great.
Do we need to cancel and re-record it?
Yes. Tone it down a little bit.
Tony, good to meet you. This is the
good
first
to meet
time
you
I'm
too.
meeting you.
Yep.
Jimmy
nice
has talked a lot about you, so we're excited. Thank you for being on our show tonight.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So, Maury, I know you did a little research on Tony, and I know he's got some questions.
Here we go.
I got some questions, so I'm just gonna put it out here. I'm not. I'm now being introduced to the comedy and magic world. It's not really my wheelhouse. I'm a film guy, filmmaker myself. So Jimmy has really introduced me to this world.
Okay.
We actually also interviewed one of your colleagues, Todd.
Todd.
Yeah. He was telling me that. Yeah.
And that was probably one of my favorite things that we've done on this podcast. It's so interesting. So, first question I got for you, because I think this is really cool. So, as a filmmaker myself, one of the biggest influences ever that I don't think you could have film without is Sergio Leone. He's the guy that basically made famous the close-up. Have you ever seen The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly?
Right, yep.
So, that being said, as far as magic goes, obviously Houdini. I mean, you can't have magic without him.
Right.
What role did that play in your career and in your fandom?
Houdini or
Houdini? Yeah.
Oh well,
because I figure you can't be influenced without him.
Right. I think almost every kid has heard of Houdini, and I was a fan of Houdini from the time I was a kid myself, and I think Houdini was so great at marketing. He was a huge superstar of his day, and he's been dead since 1920 something.
26.
Yeah. And he's still even school children know who he is. They've heard the name at least, and there was nobody like him. He was really the world's first escape artist. He invented it. That term didn't exist before him.
Wow.
The common man, he was a guy who everybody wanted to see beat something, escape from something. And maybe some people wanted to see if he didn't get out. But, he created the entire genre. I mean, before he got into escapes, he was really a mediocre magician, not even doing that well.
Wow.
And a manager, an agent said to him, you need to do more of that stuff where you get out of the handcuffs. And because he was doing what's called the substitution trunk or the metamorphosis, and one part of that's where he's changed his places. He was doing it with his brother, I think, at the time, where one part of it has to do with handcuffs, and a New York agent said to him, "You know what? You need to do more of that."
Wow.
So it's oddly enough that's how that sort of started.
Wow.
And it just caught on.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And how long have you been doing magic? I saw you're not from Florida.
No,
Memphis?
I'm the Memphis area.
Okay.
I did live in Memphis, but I was born and raised in Middle Tennessee, about halfway between Memphis and Nashville. But I started, my mother said I started when I was 7. And the reason why I started, you'll think this is interesting, the guy came to our school who was a retired cop.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And he did, this is pre-DARE days. He did a Say No to Drugs program before that it was even a thing. And he was a magician, and he was from Kentucky, and he traveled all over the South. And my mother says I saw him, and I just was like, oh, I got to learn to do that.
Right, just hooked.
And we had one little magic book in our library, and I checked it out over and over again. And oddly enough, that one magic book wound up, a lady 3 or 4 years ago bought it at a yard sale and had my name in it.
Wow.
Are you serious?
And she said, who is this? Got somebody's name in it. And a friend of mine said, oh, I know him. He lives in Orlando.
No way.
Yeah, so the lady Facebooked me and said, I've got this book, and my friend says your name's in it. Do you want it?
Wow.
So I've got it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
That is very
I mean,
weird.
I mean, this is from
creepy.
This is from the 70s. Wow. You know, and it bounced around. Apparently, they sold all their library books. Somebody else had it. It went around here, and this lady randomly at a yard sale. It was in with a bunch of books she bought.
Wow.
So, but I have it now at home, so it's an odd little story.
That's I mean, books
Yeah.
don't even survive these days. Everybody's got the internet, so the fact that
I
it's
know.
something that's not even used really,
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. So that's how you got started into...
Yep, and then I'm sure I probably saw that guy, and then I started learning about Houdini after that, you know, because you start researching and trying to learn all you can. And so that's probably how it
What
how
was
it
your
happened.
first trick in front of a crowd?
I have
Do you
no
remember?
idea.
No.
I remember in that book just a simple coin called the French drop, where you pretend to put a coin in your hand and make it reappear somewhere else. Probably something like that.
Something like that.
I don't really remember, but we'll go with that.
Wow. How did you take it from, getting a book and doing a couple tricks to now you've made a career. I mean, I've was able to do extensive research on you.
Yeah, it's been a roundabout way because I didn't set out to be a magician. I was into magic as a kid, and then by the time I was 16, I lost all interest in it. And I got interested in acting and comedy, and went to the University of Tennessee and studied theater and wanted to be an actor.
Oh, wow.
And got out of college and moved to Nashville and did some film and commercials and improv comedy and just theater, and actually did another dinner theater show up there. No magic at all. And I moved to LA for a short time, didn't get anywhere, and I was already married at the time, had one child, my oldest daughter, and moved back. We were living with my in-laws for a while, and I was trying to figure out what to do, and I got this job working for this company, and over time, over about a year, we went into business with them, and we opened a gourmet coffee company.
Oh, wow.
Called Espresso, Etc. And we had 2 coffee shops in Memphis, and also one of those espresso carts that you can take out. We did that.
Yeah.
We sold wholesale coffee to restaurants. We sold espresso machines, Italian ice machines, all that stuff. So I became a businessman in the early 90s and made no money. We had 25 employees. that worked for me and my wife and another couple. And we just overextended ourselves. We had one great business, one great coffee shop. And if we'd stayed with that, we would have done. We were actually before Starbucks.
Wow.
We did. The whole reason why we got in the business is my friend, he was importing Italian ice machines from Italy. And the Italians that he knew or his friends with said, you know what? Espresso's catching on over there. Wow. He goes, we're selling more espresso machines in America than we are anywhere right now. And at that point, Starbucks was still only in Seattle. And he was like, I don't know, you guys, you might want to look into getting into that business. And long story short, we did. And we had one really great shop. And then we went out and subleased another one for too much money. And then I got, all this. Long story short, we weren't making any money. So, and I was, there was 4 of us, my wife and myself, and like I said, another couple. So I had to get a job. And randomly, I was in the coffee shop, and I picked up one of those. It was called the Memphis Flyer. It's like the Orlando Weekly here.
Right.
And I'm flipping through it, and it says, Circus Casino looking for magicians, jugglers, variety acts for a new casino they're opening in Mississippi. And I told my wife, I said, I think I'm going to go audition for that. And I had not done magic in, God, I don't know how many years. And I had no costuming, no nothing. I went down there with a deck of cards and a piece of rope and a pair of scissors and a coins across set, and that's all I had, and got the job. Wow. But the reason I got the job isn't because I was so good. It's because everybody else was bringing doves and boxes, and they wanted a close-up guy. And nobody was doing close-up. And that's the only reason. I mean, not that I was good. I happened to be. Because later on, they literally told me that. But they said, can you come and do another show for us, just a show for the casino manager and the poker manager and all these people? And I had nothing. So I ran to, there was a magic shop in Memphis. I bought, this is still VHS tape days, I bought the first 3, what's Michael Lamar's?
Yeah, Michael Lamar's.
The easy to MasterCard miracles or whatever. Yep. I bought those 3, and I went home and crammed for like a week. Wow. And then I went and did like an hour show. And then I got the job. But I told Michael Lamar that story one time.
Yeah.
I said, the reason why I'm in this probably in the business now is because of you. Wow. And he goes, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, I had no, I guess I didn't even probably have any magic books.
Right.
Because that was a part of my past. I wasn't even thinking about it. So I got the job, and I worked there 2 years. Wow. And Circus Casino, and then they got rid of all the performers, all the variety guys, and renamed it the Grand. Wow. Which was one of their brands. They got like 9 or 10 brands that all are owned by the same company that are under different names, like the Luxor, Excalibur. Okay. Circus owns all those. Anyway, then I wound up working for some other casinos, and then theme park in Memphis, and then one thing led to another, and I was just gigging it for years, and was actually on vacation in Florida, and I got a call that someone had found me on the internet, and this is like in the 90s. I can't even remember what my website was then.
Wow, so not social media, obviously.
No, and I'm like, wow, how did they? Anyway, that led me to working for Fox Family Channel. I worked for the Fox Family Channel for a year, and they asked me to come and have a meeting. So I met with the president of Fox Family at the time, which is now the Disney family. Disney bought it all, And they hired me because I was good at improv. Had nothing to do with magic. Wow. And they said, we need somebody who can MC. And they started throwing insults at me to see how I would react.
Right.
And And this guy was like, he was all business. Everybody was super young. It's like, that market, like,
right.
They're all like in their 20s. But the one
Sure.
dude was in his 40s, and he was sort of hardcore a little bit. And they started throwing stuff at me to see how I'd respond, and I was just joking with them, and I got the job. But again, it wasn't because of magic. It was because I had a background in doing improv.
Wow.
So.
It goes to show, right? And Jeff Hobson said this at a lecture. The magic doesn't make the magician makes the magic.
Yeah.
It's all about the entertainer.
Yeah.
In magic, there's effects that Tony could do, I can do, Todd can do. We could do the exact same effect, but each one of us is going to do it differently. Each one of us is going to have a different spin.
Should be that
in
way.
theory. It's
in
not,
theory,
it's,
and we are, but
yes.
I mean that's the point.
Yeah.
It should be your own spin or your own personality.
Right. I mean, every magician does an invisible deck, but how Tony does it versus how I do it versus Chris Angel, right? Everybody does it or should do it differently. Shouldn't be cookie cutter,
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, it's the old saying, it's not what you do, it's the way you do it.
Yeah.
And it applies in magic as much as anything else.
That's amazing. So speaking of different tricks and stuff, this is a good question I wanted to ask you. So, have you ever been on a show and went to do a trick and it just bombed? Like not that the trick bombed, but like something happened, you made a mistake, like the cards fell or something, and you're just like...
This week. What is tonight? Let's see. Saturday night, I think I screwed up.
Well, what happened?
I got this new trick, and it's a card trick, and I didn't preset the cards because I had to force 3 cards on, which means I make them take the cards I want them to take, and I don't know what I did. I was joking with people in the audience as I was walking, and I just messed it up totally, and I found one of them. Out of 3, and it was the first one, which makes it even worse.
Right.
Because the last 2, it's like, and I have no out because I just started doing it. So,
how did you recover?
I don't know. I probably
went to the
blew it.
next
They
one.
don't. Fortunately, they don't know what's real and what's not real. Hopefully, with my show anyway. So if I screw up, most of it looks like I'm screwing up anyway.
Awesome.
So-
There you go.
Bring it back, sir.
Yeah.
I remember one night I used to do a paintball bullet catch, and this goes back probably 10, 12 years. And I'm at the Lake Worth Playhouse, and it's a paintball gun. So I have somebody come on stage, they sign the paintball goes in the chamber of the gun, they shoot it, and I catch it in my teeth. Well, it's all on a CO2 cartridge, right? That's what propels the round out of the gun.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in this case, the gun malfunctioned, and the CO2 cartridge had leaked the entire set.
And
So-
it gets rid of it so
Yeah.
quickly. The
So-
CO2 just drains.
So when they went to pull the trigger, nothing happens. There's no bang, and everything is set at that point. So
Yeah.
I need a bang.
Yeah.
Right. So I remember I'm fiddling with a gun. Of course, I don't have any other CO2 cartridges. I'm like, how am I going to get out of this? I have the ball loaded where it needs to be loaded.
Yeah.
And I turned to the audience and said, okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3. Y'all are going to yell bang, and we're just going to pretend that the gun went off. They did. I got more compliments that show because everybody thought, they're like, we've seen bullet catches before on TV. That was hysterical. How you messed it up and recovered. Like we really thought it was wrong. Oh, I'm glad you thought that. I'm not going to say what I was doing.
Yeah, I guess if you're doing comedy magic, it gives you some more leniency and some more outs because they think, well, you messed it up on purpose just to get me to laugh at you.
Right.
Kind of
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
And hopefully you've won them over enough to where they like you anyway. So that's the key. You want to win them over as quick as you can, so you're liked by them, and then they'll oftentimes, recover easily from it.
Yeah, I know. One of the only magic shows I've ever seen actually filmed Jimmy's set, and his connection with the audience was amazing. I mean, he had a meat out of the palm of his hands. He could have done anything. He didn't mess up. He did great. But I guess if you make that connection,
right? Yeah.
People then can easily suspend their disbelief to buy into what you're putting out there. So that's
Right.
pretty awesome.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing magic and comedy overall?
I started full time in 1992.
Wow.
So however long that is. And that's when I started at the casino.
That's amazing. And I was going to ask you too. I was in my research I was doing on you. It says you're also an author.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about that.
I've written several books. They're on Amazon. One's for children. Well, they're all sort of. One of them is a short story. One of them is a play called Bigfoot, which is about bullying. And then the other one's like a children's middle grade book called Tales of the Triangle, which is sort of a sci-fi thriller, like a YA kind of, young reader kind of book. And I also have an anti-bullying show, which is on Amazon Prime, that's available for download, called Pipsqueak.
Okay, tell me about that. I saw that you're, in my research, you're a really big advocate against anti-bullying. Like, that's a big thing for you.
Yeah, I was bullied as a child, and then my son was bullied. And then about 8 or 9 years ago, a friend of mine's next-door neighbor, their daughter went in the barn and hung herself.
Wow.
Because of Facebook. She was being bullied on Facebook. And I said, man, I was bullied, and like I said, my son was bullied. He was bullied in elementary and middle school. And I said, I feel like I need to do something.
Yeah.
And I said, since I have the experience of having been bullied, I could do a autobiographical show, semi-autobiographical. So I had the idea in my head, but I didn't have the show written. And I was interviewed for, I think it's called Orlando Family Magazine. Mm-hmm. And they asked me, what are you working on now? And I said, well, I got this idea for an anti-bullying show. And that's all I said. And then like a week later, after the magazine came out, I got a call from the rep, Orlando Repertory Theater, the artistic director there, Jeff Revels. And he goes, hey, I want to talk to you about this bullying show. And maybe having you do it here at the rep. And I said, well, I don't even have a show. I said I'm working on a show, but I don't actually have a show. And he goes, well, let's talk about it anyway. And so we had a meeting, and he goes, can I bring my wife and kids to see your show here? And I said yes. So they came to the show, and he goes, hey, just let's do it. And this was, I had a good amount of time to write it, but it had never been performed. And so I wrote it, and they put me in for a week, and I've been doing it now for, I think, 10 years at the rep. I'm there every January.
Wow.
And they bus school kids in, and I do 1 or 2 shows a day, and then on Saturday afternoon we do one for the general public. But it's grown over time. And I was called Pipsqueak as a kid. That was a nickname I had, so that's the basis of the reason why it's named that. But yeah, that's a story on that. I've been doing it there. I don't, and then we have the video of it, and I've done it a few. I did it at the Strass Center in Tampa. I did it in a performing arts center in Tennessee, too, called the Dixie Carter Performing Arts Center, and a few other places.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you have any plans to expand that? And
we're doing a documentary on it. We filmed part of it in. I actually did it at Dr. Phillips Center as part of UCF's arts thing back in the spring. And so I was approached about doing a documentary. So we're doing a documentary, and we're filming again in January to have more footage.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be a combination of interviews with people who've been bullied, and then bits of the show. So it'll be like for families, and we're going to pitch it to everybody, Netflix and
that's amazing.
Amazon Prime and things like that.
And so you're on Prime now. What do people type in on Prime to find your show?
They just type in Pipsqueak, the anti-bullying magic show. So
check that out, everybody who's listening. Obviously, bullying is such a huge thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's so sad whenever you see on Facebook somebody do an act of kindness, but it's not really an act of kindness. It's something that's human decency, and then it gets a million likes, and people freak out because it was such a big thing, and we could do that every day. I don't know why we choose not to.
Well, look at Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers' popularity is super high right now, and we went to see the new movie.
And Tom Hanks?
Yeah, with Tom Hanks, and there was people weeping.
Yeah.
And the movie had barely started.
Yeah.
And this guy was just a kind man, but he had kindness like it was a superpower.
Right.
Like he was so kind that people really don't even seem to know how to react to that anymore. There was a girl sitting next to me who cried the whole movie, and she was not even old enough to even know who he was at the time. She was too young, and I thought, wow, this is powerful stuff.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, I'm from Pittsburgh, so Mr. Rogers is everything in my area.
Yeah, I bet.
And I mean, we watched him on PBS growing up. I mean, that was the thing, and we need more of that kind of stuff out there, I think.
Yeah.
But I think also now we need stuff that's tailored towards, the cyberbullying,
right.
the social media, and the Twitter. Like, I mean, even like for us with this show, you just got trolls and you got people, and it's just it's so annoying. I hate social media as much.
Right.
I hate it more than I like it.
Yep.
I like it to a small degree to get our show out there, and
right.
to connect and network.
Yep.
But beyond that, it's just, I mean, there's so much garbage with it, and it's like with your neighbor's daughter, it's just terrible what it can do to somebody.
And, if Mr. Rogers were alive and if he was still working, he would be all over it. He would definitely be finding ways to, and he was very subtle, as you know, about the way. I don't know if you've seen the movie. Have you seen the movie?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
But it's very interesting because, well, I won't say because people are listening. I don't want any spoilers about it. But it's interesting how the movie how he affected the guy who came to write a story on him. That's what it's all about. Wow. And it's a true story. And this guy who was a cynical guy, and he was known for writing pieces about people where he sort of ripped them apart. And that was his plan.
Was to rip apart Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, he was not on purpose necessarily, but he thought there's got to be some dirt on this guy that I can dig up, because he was like a hardcore, hard-hitting reporter,
right?
And he didn't even want to interview him, and he just couldn't wrap his head around this guy, and and it slowly started to change that man's whole life, and that's all I'll say about it. But it's definitely worth seeing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I love your initiative on what you're doing. I think it's awesome. I can't wait for the documentary, and
Thank you. Yeah.
Hopefully maybe you could even do a series or something, and
you never know. I don't know. Somebody needs to do it. I mean, it just somebody needs to be there. You can never say too much about it, and it's not going to go away, and it's always going to be there. So just need to keep hitting, I try to do it in a way that's entertaining without being too hard-hitting, because a lot of the documentaries out there on bullying are too graphic, and they can't be shown in schools for kids unless they're in high school. But there's a few of them out there that they don't show in elementary and middle school because it's just too graphic. They show the fighting, they show the language, and they don't want them hearing that in the school. So. And
I got to tell you, I've seen Pipsqueak. I've seen the show, and I connected it. I was bullied, and it really was an excellent show and an excellent message. I got a lot of looks, when there's a room full of kids and I'm the 30-year-old creepy guy in the back. But it really was a great show, and it connected with everybody. And I was watching the reactions of the audience, especially the adults, and even them. You can see the memories coming back for them, and you can see the messages for them, and it's great. You got to go download it on Amazon Prime or see Tony live and doing it at Pipsqueak.
Yep. Yeah, well, I mean, obviously we're going to get to where they could find you, and we're going to put out links for all this stuff as well. So if you're listening, we are going to have links below here for everything we're kind of talking about here with Tony. But you had a show tonight. How was it? I mean, we're talking to you on the after show.
Oh, yeah, it was good. They liked it.
Yeah.
What is your do you have like a main kind of trick or something you do that?
The two things.
What is your kind of style too to go with that? If somebody was checking you out, what could they maybe expect?
Well, it depends. What day is today?
Thursday.
So
Oh, your Thursday style.
I don't know. What is my style? I don't know that.
you know, the best thing I would say to describe it is it really is whatever day of the week it is, right? Whatever flavor of the month. And I mean that so respectfully because seeing Tony's show, right? What's the catchphrase? A man of 1,000 characters.
One man cast of dozens.
One man cast of dozens. And that is absolutely correct. You know, you never know what you're going to get when you walk into the show. You could see the exact same show. You know, let me break it down this way. In Magic, right, there's a kind of unwritten rules. One of them is you never do the same trick twice, right? You can come to a 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock show and see Tony Brent on the exact same night, and he's going to do the same material, and both shows are going to be completely different because of his style and his characters and his personality.
Wow.
You know, so it really is. You know, what night is it? You know, what does the audience give you? You know,
So that kind
Right,
of goes
yeah.
in with like your improv.
Yeah, a lot of improv characters,
And I
you know,
guess-
stuff like that.
I guess
Little
especially
cowbell.
that was a really
Christopher
good
Walken
impression.
right there, yeah.
Cowbell.
I guess too, being in Orlando, we're in the epicenter of people coming in, and you got the theme parks and attractions and what they call the hospitality.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I guess on any given night, you might get a family of 10 with a bunch of kids, or you might get adults who just want to
Yeah.
have a night where they're not baking in the theme parks all day.
Yep.
So is that tough to come out and you scan the audience? I know that's Jimmy. Jimmy's so good at it. He can come out and scan the audience and say, okay, there's kids now. I got to do a family-friendly.
Yeah, yeah.
But you don't know until you get out and actually look at the people.
Right.
I mean, that's
try
gotta
to
be crazy.
I try to peek out at them beforehand and just look around, see what's going on. Try to get a vibe. But yeah, it comes from doing a lot of shows. You just do enough shows, you'll eventually get to where you can decide on the spur of the moment if you need to change something or what the flow is going to be. But yeah, this is a tough. I will say this can be a tough room because you may have a group from China that takes up this whole table and does not speak English, which I've had.
You've had that?
I've had everything under the sun. You may have a group of Girl Scouts right here. You may have a group from the villages over here. It could be, anything, and it changes from show to show.
Wow.
So you just have to be ready to roll with whatever, and that's what we do.
Wow. Yeah, Jimmy, the show I filmed, didn't you have a lady from Italy who didn't even speak English?
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
tried
yeah.
to get her on stage,
Yeah.
but you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I was doing a tossed out deck, and I went up to her, and she had no idea what I was saying or the instructions that I was trying to give to her. And then we found out she just didn't speak English. But Magic being universal, you're able to demonstrate it in a different way to get her to understand what you need her to do without having to physically communicate.
I had a woman from Brazil the other day. I think it was last week, and she didn't speak English. And I said, "Does anybody speak Portuguese?" And there was somebody else that did, and I had them translate.
Yeah.
So I had the guy
Wow.
stand up, and I moved my lips, and he said the words behind me. So and it worked. So it got laughs. So
I bet that's really cool. So do you have maybe a go-to for the most outrageous story you've ever, or outrageous thing you've ever experienced on a stage, and you're just like, I can't even believe this is real?
I got a few of them.
We'll take a few.
Okay, here's one I can think of is I used to juggle in the show. We used to be a two-man show, and we used to juggle. And one of the things we would do is borrow something from the audience. And it could be a random thing. Usually like to get something really small. And there was a guy sitting where you are, and he goes, "How about my leg?" And we go, "Sure." He pulls off the prosthetic.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it was he goes, "Now this is $70,000 and it's titanium, but you can't break it." So he had been in the military and lost a leg. So he pulls his leg off and he throws it. He doesn't, and he just literally, we're up there and all of a sudden a prosthetic leg flies across. We weren't able to juggle it though.
Wow.
It was the whole leg. It's just too big.
And it's probably had a shoe on it, right?
Yeah, it had a shoe on it.
That makes it so.
So, stuff like that. I had a guy I used to do one time I used to do a trick. Well, I still do one trick with an egg where I make an egg appear. And I break it to show that it's real and drop it in a wine glass and the shell. And I would always tell a guy to drink it. And there was a guy one night, grabbed it and drank it. The whole thing, crunched on the shell and everything. Okay. Later on in the show, I made a goldfish appear. And the goldfish was about this big. And I said, hey, drink it. He drank the goldfish.
What?
Did you know he was going to? Or
No,
did you think
I didn't think he. I thought that was it. But
Right.
but I mean, literally, it was a big fish, and you could see it going down his neck, going down his throat.
It's like Steve-O style.
Yeah, it was like
from Jackass.
And the
Oh my
the
gosh.
crowd was like,
What
it
did I
just
just
sort
witness?
of,
Yeah.
what did I just see?
Oh my gosh, that's
One night I had a woman who kept jumping up, flashing me. She was at the back of this table.
We should
So she
mention
was-
it's unlimited beer and wine at the
Yeah,
show.
let's mention that. It's unlimited beer and wine.
here at WonderWorks.
The first
what's your-
time she did it, I'll go.
I say Jimmy has the quick spiel that you have to rewind and then use slow motion so you could actually hear what he said. Give it to us.
The Out of Control Magic Company dinner show for $29.99. You can all get pizza, South Soda, wine, beer, dessert, unlimited laughs, unlimited fun.
Yeah.
And as Billy Gunn says, go ahead and rewind that.
Right?
Was it slow-mo?
Right. If you want to hear that in normal person speed, just rewind and play it at slow motion.
So come on out to WonderWorks. I tell you what, I didn't even know they did comedy here because it's an upside-down building, which is so cool to look at
Yeah.
if you've ever been here.
Yeah, it
and
is
then
very cool
they have
building.
this awesome little venue so you could, with the stage and everything. But back to the topless girl flashing.
Oh yeah, she did it. The first time she did it, I wasn't looking, and people were like, and some guys just were howling hysterically, and I'm like, I didn't know what it was, and then a few minutes later, she did it again, and she stood up, and I said, "Settle down, woman." It's family. There's kids in here. And so she didn't do it again, so she did it twice. But
Wow.
just things like that. You never know what's going to happen
That's
here.
Audio Vaughn. How do you feel about that?
Audio Vaughn, you can talk. It's okay. There's a microphone in front of you.
Bill's not going to beat you up this time for. Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah, he can only talk off screen, but we still acknowledge him. Well, thank
can
you for
see
your
him.
input, Audio Vaughn. Appreciate you.
So, Tony, so how did you go from the casinos to WonderWorks? What brought you here to WonderWorks?
And with your WonderWorks, also in my research, I saw that you have some records as well.
Oh, yeah. We are the longest running comedy magic dinner show ever.
Wow.
And we're the longest running one-man dinner show, that runs 7 days a week. There's
Wow.
a show in here 7 days a week.
The comedy dinner show.
Yeah,
7
yeah.
days.
It might be him, it might be me, it might be Todd, and there's Nathan and TC and Scott Humston.
That's amazing.
But we have a show in here 365 days a year, 7 days a week.
Even on Christmas.
Even Christmas, we're sold out.
Yep.
Wow.
So
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So-
Christmas, there's 3 shows.
Oh yeah, Christmas week will be 3 shows. I do 2 of them, and Scott's going to do 1 of them.
So if you're in Orlando or Florida, or you're traveling, you have 0 excuses as to why you can't come out for a show.
Yeah.
Because it's literally every single day you can make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
And
Yeah,
it's hilarious.
I remember a couple of years ago, we had a hurricane come through,
Yeah.
and the show still went on during a hurricane.
Yeah. Because this building is one of the safest places in town during a hurricane.
Even though it's literally an upside-down
Even
building.
though it's upside down, the structure is really strong.
Wow.
In fact, there was a time years ago when it was one of the bad hurricanes, they were telling all the employees to come in if they needed a place to go, just to be
Wow.
safe,
Right.
not to work. But
That's amazing.
yeah, isn't that cool?
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually caught one show. I was a guest at Jimmy's, and then I filmed another show. And, I mean, it's hilarious. I mean, it was hard to even keep track of doing the filming. So definitely come on out and check out the show here at WonderWorks. We're going to put a link under there, too, for you.
So,
Yeah.
go back. How did you get here? Tell the listeners what brought you? Because it wasn't a one-man show; it was a two-man show here.
Yeah, it was
right?
a two-man show. Originally, I came to town to work for Disney, and I worked at, I was hired to be a streetmosphere performer at MGM, Hollywood Studios. MGM
Was
at the time.
Terry Ward there at the time? He's been
Terry
here for
had
30 years.
left. Yeah, Terry had left to go to do the Diamond Horseshoe,
Okay,
and that's why they.
brought you in.
One of the reasons why they brought me in. Yeah, and I didn't really do any magic. Oh, I did one magic trick. most of it was comedy and juggling. And I was a bellhop, and my old buddy Danny Devaney was a bellhop, and he was already working there. And he's the one that got me the audition. So I came down to work for Disney in '99. And in 2000, they contacted me about doing this show, which had not been opened. And anyway, long story short, they came down and saw me, and they hired me. And it was originally called Night of Wonder. It was a magical musical comedy show with a guy and a girl and a keyboard player. And we did that show for a year. The lady that I worked with got pregnant and decided to leave, and we're talking about hiring what to do. And I said, let's make it a comedy show, because my theory was then and still is, we cannot compete with Disney and Universal with big illusions, big tricks, big anything. We have to go for it in a different way. This room isn't set up to be able to have $100,000 illusions, and we don't need to do that. We need to go for a intimate comedy style that people, when they see it, they'll go, oh, it's different than when I saw it before. Mm-hmm. And that's what brings them back, is because it's not just a set cookie cutter, right. show. So that was my theory then, and it still is now.
That's awesome. Do you do? Are you glad you're kind of more centralized instead of traveling around as much?
Yeah.
And because I feel like being here in the couple shows I saw, I mean, you don't need to. People are traveling in here all the time anyway, so it's almost like a traveling show that stays in one spot. It's really unique.
Yeah, it's traveling is fun for about a week. It's glamorous for about a week. But if you're in an airport, getting on another plane, getting delayed, trying to get on a cruise ship, and you're doing that all the time, that is hard work. And I've done that. I've done some cruises and stuff like that, and I've done a lot of traveling because like when I was gigging it before I moved to Florida, I was everywhere. I traveled all over the country. Wherever the work was, that's where you go. And it gets old real fast. So, I'm blessed to be able to not have to do that. And I can roll home in 25 minutes, and I'm right here in my own house, in my own bed, and, I just roll in here and get set up and do it. So, very fortunate. We started out slow here. It took a few years for it to get rolling. And then suddenly something called TripAdvisor appeared, and we were fortunate enough to get so many good reviews, it just bumped up our popularity.
Yeah, you've got thousands, and I mean, you've got like tons. I mean, most of the reviews are 5-star. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I was looking at reviews, and I was blown away.
Right.
As somebody who, I always look at reviews on stuff.
Right, yeah, we do too. Yeah.
And just seeing your reviews, I was like, wow, this is probably the most like positive 5-star reviews I've seen.
Oh,
and then
you.
people aren't just saying it was a great show, because my thing tonight was I wanted to actually read some of them, but they're all paragraph. And, and we'd be here for 2 hours of people praising the show, saying how good it is, how people need to come check it out.
Good.
How it's changed their lives. And I thought, wow, so people aren't just leaving reviews and hitting the 5 stars. They're actually like writing a book on how good it was.
Nice.
So very cool, very cool.
Well, we try to, one of the other things, I try to set up situations that are good photo ops for family members. So when I'm bringing people up on stage, I do it all in my mind. How can I make that person look good? Even though we may be dressing up in wigs and all this stuff, I want these other people to have a memory.
Yeah.
Like I've got this, the thing I screwed up the other night, actually. I've got a bit in it where a guy gets on stage and he lays on a pool float and does some stuff, and it means nothing. It's got nothing to do with the trick, but I wanted a reason to get a guy up and have him lay on a pool float because I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
And so, but the family is loving it, and I'm really not embarrassing the guy either. So everybody's just having fun, and that gives them more memories as opposed to coming in here and just seeing some, hey, some smooth Vegas kind of guy who,
Yeah.
doves.
Sleight of hand.
Yeah, a lot of sleight of hand doves and boxes and stuff like that. And none of us do that. We all are more comedy and audience participation based.
That's awesome. Yeah, whenever I was at Jimmy's show, he had, almost every trick had some audience participation.
Right, yeah.
And I think whenever you're part of a show instead of just watching it, it's that much more. So
it's more memorable for them and it's just better.
Yeah, it's all about creating a memory, leaving them with an impression,
What's your favorite all-time trick?
The bill and lemon.
Oh, what is that?
It's a borrowed bill that's signed that winds up in a lemon later on. That's across the other side of the stage. That's being held by somebody.
That sounds.
And it's a very old trick. I mean, it was popular during vaudeville in the 1800s.
Wow.
So it's at least 150 years old, probably older actually. And there's tons of people do it, but I do it a little bit differently than anybody else. I started doing it in the 90s, and it's my bread and butter.
Wow.
That and the Sonny and Cher thing.
Yeah.
How many times does somebody try to give you $20 or $50 to give them the Iggy on a trick?
I've had it happen. I had a guy come in one day with a blank check and asked me if he could do the Sonny and Cher routine.
Now, what is the Sonny and Cher?
It's a routine where it's basically I dress a guy up in a ventriloquist mask.
Okay.
And we do I Got You, Babe.
That's awesome.
That's all it is, but it's funny.
Very funny.
And, yeah. But, yeah, guy, he had a blank check. Well, he had asked me before, and I said no. And then one day he came back, and he handed me a check, and it was signed, but it was blank. And I still said no, but.
Wow.
And he wanted to be Cher.
He wanted to be able to do the routine. He was some kind of performer.
Oh, got it.
Yeah,
So he was trying to buy the routine
He
from
wanted
you.
to buy the rights to the routine.
Got it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And that's one you invented?
I didn't invent it. The ventriloquist mask, again, has been around for a long time. There was a guy that used to be the president of the National Ventriloquism Association who lived in Florida.
Right.
Came to the show one night, and he goes, "Don't ever let anybody tell you can't do that." There's a guy in Vegas who claims he invented it, the mask. His name's Ron Lucas. And he goes, "Ron Lucas didn't invent that mask, so-and-so," and he named some guy. "He did it in the 20s. And this guy's like 100 years old. I thought, well,
So he was there.
Yeah, he probably was there. And I was like, oh, okay. He actually have the rights from Sonny Bono's estate to do it.
You do?
Yeah. I went, well, I didn't go, but I called, I think it's BMI, who owns, through BMI, which has an office in Miami. And I had to fill out a ton of paperwork. And this lady calls me. She goes, what are you doing? What do you want to do? And I said, well, I start out and I do just a minute and a half of I Got You, Babe. And I'm Sonny and I have a man dressed as Cher. So it's basically a parody. So it's dead silence. And you can hear her talking to somebody else. They're like, I don't know. How can you? Just do it.
That's awesome.
So I've been doing it.
Wow.
I'd already been doing it, but
Right.
I finally thought, you know what? If I'm ever on television and wanted to do it, I couldn't do it, but I can now. I should be able to now.
Yeah, especially if that's like one of your main
Yeah,
pieces.
yeah. So
Now I want to come catch a show just so I can see it.
You have to. It's a great show. I've seen Tony live too many times to count. And like I said, every time it's a completely different show. When I'm feeling down or I have a bad show, I come see Tony. And it's like that.
see if I have a bad show.
You're right.
And that makes you feel better.
It does.
Either way, it's a win-win.
It's a win-win. But it's one of those things where magic and entertaining could really heal the soul. And you can make people laugh and forget about all of their problems for 60 minutes. Teller says, right, magicians are honest liars, right?
Yep.
We're going to lie to you for 60 minutes. The question is, do you feel entertained or ripped off at the end of that 60 minutes? But when you're having a bad day and you come see a great show and makes you smile and laugh, all your problems are gone for that time. So when I need inspiration, I come see Tony.
That's awesome.
I think, too, that there's something to be said for live entertainment, seeing something live, even like wrestling.
Yeah.
That's different when it's live. Whatever it is, it's so much better live. And some movies are better seen in the theater, are better experienced in a theater, or better experienced in IMAX or whatever. And it's the same thing with entertainment. It's a different vibe when you're there and you're seeing it live. And there's just not enough live entertainment anymore, I think. Certainly not anything like what we're doing.
Right.
And
what you have been doing, because it's, 19 years that you are
19 years
doing the show.
Yeah, 19 years. Going on 20. I think it's June. June will be 20 years.
Wow. So I have a question for both of you. What advice do you give to somebody who wants to get into magic, comedy, improv? I mean, it's kind of a three-legged race there, on the show. So there are three pieces there. Well, what do you say?
Well, what do you think?
So for me, it's learn, right? Study and learn and just be a sponge. Absorb everything that you can. When I started, I watched videos, again, the VHS videos, and read the books and, the Michael Lamar tapes and the Jeff McBride tapes.
Mm-hmm.
And I studied every piece of magic or type of magic, that was out there until I kind of came up with what I liked and what was my style. And don't let anybody ever tell you that you're not good enough. You got to just keep on working on it, keep on practicing, because if you find enjoyment out of it, then other people are going to find enjoyment out of it as well.
Yeah, I agree with what he said, and I think everybody that starts out basically copies someone in the beginning. Like I copied Harry Anderson. I don't know if you remember him or not.
No.
He was
Night
a
Court.
Night Court judge on Night Court,
Oh, okay.
who actually was a magician, and he wound up becoming an actor almost by accident. And he was on Night Court for years and years. He was on another sitcom called Dave's World. And he passed away. Was it this year or last year?
No, it was maybe 2 years ago,
Has it been that long?
2017,
Yeah.
I think.
But he was a sort of a con man kind of guy. So when I started out, I worked on the streets some too, and I was a con man.
Like a 3-card Monty?
Yeah, 3-card Monty kind of.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that game. I think it's
I did all
awesome.
that stuff, and I was really channeling Harry Anderson at the time. But then over time, I started to come up with my own style. But for anybody new, I would say don't just learn magic, learn theater, take an improv class, do things to keep you. Some people can do it naturally. Not everybody can do it naturally. But it doesn't hurt to take acting classes, improv classes, any of that stuff.
Because I'll tell people, and people ask me all the time, how can you get in front of a group of people and just talk and be natural? And the biggest thing I see when I get on stage is, truthfully, Frank doesn't like to be in front of people, right? I get nervous just like anybody else. But when you're playing that
Jimmy.
character, Jimmy, it's Frank is acting Jimmy, right? Frank is acting that character, and it doesn't matter, right? Because people don't know Frank at that point; they know Jimmy, and they know, or people that know me know, I'm a police officer full time and a magician, almost full time as well. But I love being Jimmy because I don't have to be Frank for a little while, and all the stress of dealing with people and things that you see as a law enforcement officer, which are sometimes tragic events. I can enjoy myself making other people laugh. And that's an important outlet. You have to have that stress relief, right? Whether it's going to the gym, lifting weights, watching wrestling, reading a book, drawing, or performing. Somebody has to have that. And for me, that's my performance. Tying it back into wrestling, CM Punk, right? Straight edge, always said straight edge. His high is, wrestling. That was my high. My performing, getting on stage in front of a group of people and making them laugh. That's where I get the most enjoyment out of life, period.
And to go on that, if somebody wants to get into any form of entertainment, practice, practice, practice. I always say as a filmmaker, you could be so much better than me, but you're not going to outwork me and you're not going to put in more time than me.
Right.
You might have more time to put in, but if we're going to go based off the time we have, that's all I do. I put every inch of my time into some form of film learning.
Right.
practice is the biggest thing I can tell you.
And you got to do shows.
Yeah.
Some people will complain, well, you shouldn't do a show for a small amount of money. But if you're starting out, you've got to do shows. And I think it was Teller also that said something about do shows for free. You just got to do shows.
Yeah.
There's no standing in front of a mirror isn't going to cut it at the end of the day. So
it's no substitute for the experience.
It's no
of the crowd.
substitute. That's exactly right.
I mean, Tony, how many tricks do you have backstage or at home that you read online? This is the next greatest thing.
Yep.
You buy it, you put it in the show one time.
Yep.
It falls flat. You're like, oh, I'm going to file that one with things I'm never going to do again.
Yep.
Yep.
You can usually tell. I can usually tell by doing it one time if it's a keeper.
Yep.
But I will try something maybe 3 times.
Yep.
And I heard the exact same thing, Jeff Hobson. I heard that he said the same thing. That 3 times, and if it flops, it's out.
Yep.
And but I know that all the stuff I have that are keepers, I knew from the first time I did it.
Right.
Like the Bill and Lemon. When I first did it back in the 90s at a private show in a restaurant, it just killed.
Yeah.
First time I'd done it, I go, uh-oh, that's a keeper right there.
Wow.
And most of, not all the stuff right now in the show, but I've got these core things that I've pretty much always done because I did them one time and I just knew it fits me, fits my style. I'm not trying to put a, round peg in a square hole kind of thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's good. And Tony's great about changing his style and adapting his style with the times. And that's an important thing. I think you have to stay relevant in entertainment.
Yeah, you do. And I think a lot of it is editing. Mm-hmm. Who was it? Jay Leno or some comedian said the hardest part is shaving everything off to where you get just the comedy with no extra word, no extra letters, no nothing. You want to be able to get to the joke or get it with the least amount of resistance. So it's editing. You're always cutting, cut. And that's, I think, with the attention spans of people these days, back to the lemon again, that trick used to be 12 minutes long. Now it's 5.
Wow. Right.
So it's less than, half of what it used to be. Just because times have changed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You have to keep up with it. You need to keep up with it. So I try to push everything I do to the outrageous limits that I can to keep everybody's attention and try to keep them off balance just enough to where they hopefully will forget about their phones, or at least they'll I know I do certain things where people just they can't believe they're seeing it, so they just totally, this is sort of forgotten. And that's the idea. You want them to forget that for a while.
I think that's the biggest trick in the world is to get somebody to forget about their phone for 5 seconds.
It's so hard. It's very hard. Very hard to do. But you have to really pay attention to, like he said, the times and technology and just keep it fast. And I think a lot of editing.
Audio Vaughn, how do you feel about Magic? Are you glad that
he hates it?
Are you glad that Jimmy made Bill disappear?
Oh yeah, that was a great trick.
He's coming back next week, Vaughn. I'm going to tell you
Be
said
careful
that.
there. Maybe it's good Audio Vaughn doesn't have a microphone.
Maybe it is good. But listen, we're going to wrap up here. We got a couple minutes left. Tony, thank you for
my pleasure
being a guest on this show. We're super excited. Check it out. You're right. The Out of Control Magic Comedy Dinner Show at Wonderworks. See Tony Brent.
Yep.
It is a fantastic show. You will absolutely love it. Pips Week again on Amazon Prime. It is just all around a great family fun night. And look, for what, $30, right? You get pizza, unlimited soda, wine, beer.
Come on. Where are you going to get all that?
No,
all you can eat.
I know, and live theater, and that's
theater.
That's the important part. And speaking of live theater, I got some big news. We're going to make an announcement right here on the show.
I'm excited.
Yeah, you should be excited. And comedy, right? All about comedy. So on December 21st at 8 p.m., we have Vinny Montez and Oscar Daniels from Facebook and YouTube and Vine sensations are going to come here to Orlando to do a show where it's going to be at the Orlando Downtown Marriott. We want to thank them so much for donating the venue. Come check it out. Tickets are going to be $20. They're going to go on sale on December 6th. So by the time this episode drops, you will already be able to purchase your tickets online.
Yep.
Come see Officer Daniels and Vinny Montez. Great comedy show. Both were police officers. They're going to be doing a meet and greet after. And here's the kicker, is all the money raised from ticket sales are going right to the Carrie Ann Demott Foundation, Bill's Foundation. So come and enjoy a great night out and support a great cause at a great foundation. It's a fantastic evening.
Absolutely, yeah. I was so excited to see they're going to come all the way down to do a live show.
Yep.
At the Marriott downtown. Now, I do have one question. This is actually a little bit unrelated. So everybody come to the show. We're going to put a link up so you can come check it out. I saw something, speaking of Carrie Ann Demott Foundation, because this is going to air soon. Are they doing like a toy drive or something?
Yeah, so
let's talk about that.
So they do Toys for Tots. Every December they do Toys for Tots. You could drop it off at Oviedo Babe Ruth, the Oviedo Baseball Park. They have a Carrie Ann Demott tent. You could bring a new unwrapped toy, and we collect hundreds and hundreds of toys.
Yeah, it was amazing. I saw the post today, and I thought, wow, there are, tons of toys. I was so excited to see it, but I was glad that we're able to put it on here, too, because I think there's a lot of people that want to give, but a lot of people are afraid because they think they don't know if they're going to get scammed or something.
No, definitely not here. I can tell you we have seen the toys get delivered. It's an amazing feeling, an amazing sensation. Audiovon is giving me the clue, so, we are right at that mark, so we got to close it the normal way. You ready? We thank you for listening to the Magic of the Wrestling Podcast with Tony Brent tonight, our special guest. And hey, if you're not down with that, I got 2 words for you. Magic always.